Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you might be tuning into this edition of the Esports Awards Origins podcast. I am your host, Trevor Quickshot Henry, and today we get to speak to one of my favorite colleagues, one of the greatest voices in on-air broadcast talent, a business owner, a multi-game talent, and somebody with so much stage presence, he doesn't even have to look at the camera to deliver an amazing segment. I'm going to welcome Iain Chambers to the show.
Iain, are you talking about me or is there somebody else here?
How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, mate, that put a big smile. No one talks about me like that. So, yeah, I'm doing great now, Trevor. Thank you. It's a privilege to be here, and thank you so much for having me. As I said to you before we rolled here, it's a unique experience as a host to be a guest. So,
That's the case. That's the case. Listen, let me just quickly remind you, as well as anybody who might be new to the Origins podcast, this is the show where we talk to your favorite creators, broadcasters, but we want to know where they come from, how they got involved in the industry, how they got involved in gaming, for example. And Mr. Chambers, I always start by going way back to the beginning. What is your earliest memory of playing video games?
So I was lucky enough when I was really young that my cousin had a SNES, right? And I was obsessed with it. Whenever I could get like 20 minutes playing on Super Mario, I was all about that. But my parents wouldn't let me have a games console. So the real time that I sunk my teeth into video games was when I was actually in a store. It's not even there anymore in Hull, the city that I grew up in. And I remember looking above the till and the counter, and there was the golden controller Nintendo 64. The GoldenEye limited edition version, right? And I said to my mum, I can't even see over the counter. And I said, I want that for Christmas. I'm going to ask Father Christmas for that. And she told me afterwards, she went back to my dad and was like, we're not getting him a games console. He needs to be outside. And luckily enough, that Christmas, I peeled it open and I just saw a fraction of a gold controller and I just dropped to my knees. I was like, oh my God, I've got it. And I became a Nintendo kid from that moment. I was playing GoldenEye, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Mario Kart, Super Mario 64, all of the N64 classics. And it became a big part of like my identity as a kid. And yeah, that's when I fell in love with video games originally.
I really love that story, and I also particularly, but I actually never got to experience Nintendo 64. Growing up in South Africa, the console never made it there, so I don't have the first.
I'm so sorry about that.
I said, I know, I never got to play Mario. Zelda. I never got to play Smash. I never got to experience so many of those titles. But what I do want to know is you get involved in Nintendo titles, and if we look at the current landscape, Nintendo is not necessarily synonymous with esports. So how do your teenage years look? And when do you actually learn about competitive gaming in the esports industry?
So I mean, when I got through my teenage years, I went to university, and I think like a lot of my friends at the time, I just picked any old degree, and I picked English language and literature, and I did that degree. And at this point, I still wasn't aware of I guess, competitive gaming. I went to a couple of tournaments when I was at uni. Like I actually won a Halo 3 tournament in a pub once, and it was like the greatest achievement of my life at the time. And I just had no idea that this thing existed. So then when I came out of university, I was still looking for, I guess, a purpose and a career that I thought that I belonged in. And when I was growing up, I always liked, being on stage or pantomimes, and whenever I got a camera, I'd be messing around with it. So I did a broadcast journalism master's degree. And then, from there, I became a news reporter and did lots of bits and pieces. But it was just by chance that I stumbled across esports. And the moment I did it, after everything that I was doing prior, I did this one event and I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I can tell you more about the event if you want. I'd
love to. Listen, yes, I want to do it because one of the things that I really enjoy, anybody who's watched a couple of these episodes will know, finding out how old people are, what state they're in when they learn about the esports industry and really learn about the scale. The fact that you're studying like a master's in broadcast, you're already on the path and you're already learning skills that a significant number of our peers, myself included, don't actually have. So let's marry these two ideas and let's tell the story of how you've become the stage host that we know today.
Well, it's funny. I'm just going to pick up on what you just said there. When I got into esports, I will rewind in a moment. But I couldn't believe the skill set that yourself and a lot of your colleagues that we both know have without that traditional, I guess, education and training that I was lucky enough to have. And I did 4 years of live TV, Monday to Friday, and had a radio drive time show and stuff all before I found this. And I met a lovely lad called George Patchett. He was doing sound at a local TV station that I was working at the time. And I bumped into him after he left, like a year later. And I'm hosting like a food and drinks awards in the middle of England. And he's there. And I'm like, George, what are you up to these days? And he's like, oh, I work for ESL. I was like, is ESL that video game thing? And he's like, yeah. I just do what I used to do with you guys, but I do it over there and in more of an enhanced capacity. And I said, look, here's my demo, here's my email. If there's ever an opportunity to put my name in front of people, I'd love it. And then a year passed by, and it was the 2019 Premiership, the UK Premiership, which was Rainbow Six and CS. And it was in Manchester, and they needed a stage host because I think their 1, 2, 3, and 4th options weren't available. And somehow he just went, hey, I know a guy, and just put me in front of them. And that was my first event. And it sort of tied together. It felt like it tied together and was a culmination of all of my efforts in different areas of broadcasting, one hub, like live crowd work, live cameras, competitive, because I did sports broadcasting as well. And I just remember getting home and laying in bed, and I've never been more excited. I was like, how do I do more of this? Do I need an agent? How do I do more esports? And it sort of, because, as a gamer as well, it was like, I can't believe this is real. It was like a dream.
Yeah.
And that was the moment that I was like, okay, I'm in. This is what I want to do.
So listen, I can 100% relate with that. That first rush, that first show, the fact that your first event is actually quite a big deal is a little bit rare. A lot of our colleagues, they have to work their way up through qualifiers. They have to work their way up through smaller events, smaller tier things. However, that's their training, right? You come in with this experience. And if I'm summarizing this right, you're playing games all throughout your studies. You're doing traditional broadcast and television work. I want to know exactly how you do a food and drink broadcast. Like, are we judging a Sunday roast and who's got the best Yorkshire puddings? Or like, how does that work? Just quickly before we carry on.
Well, it was more like I was like the stage host of unfortunately, there weren't any food and drink on site. Otherwise, I'd have drank and be merry. It was just giving out awards, kind of like the Esports Awards, but for like culinary.
Okay.
That sort of thing.
That makes so much more sense than what I was usually. Let's talk about this. Manchester 2019. You get to do Rainbow Six. You get to do Counter-Strike. I'm going to imagine that your technical ability as a host goes well. How was it adapting to an esports broadcast where, let's be frank, there are large variances in the broadcast support, the production elements, the things that you get in traditional TV versus things? So how was the actual broadcast experience?
It was just a lot of fun. And I think because I came in without that knowledge of how, I guess, how cruel fans can be if you're not truly dialed into the scene, gave me a bit of an advantage because I sort of came in there probably a little bit too confident. But the thing that I feel like really prepared me, when I was doing local television, I had guests of all different types, high caliber to just literally a guy that we found on the street that we needed to fill a space and was like, come on in. And that really prepared me for I guess, the multitude and variety of different interviews that, and I know you're aware of as well, Trevor, when you speak to players for the first time. Some of them warm to you, some of them don't. Some of them love to talk and shit talk. Some of them don't like to talk at all. So I feel like I was well versed and ready for that. I guess that sort of an environment as well, which I feel like I look back a lot about luck and good timing. I think a lot of what we do and opportunities that we get come down to being the right man, the right time, right place, whatever that might be. And I feel like I was weirdly prepared for the opportunity without even knowing it. If you know what I mean.
I mean, I really do. And I don't think it's weird at all. I think you've already painted a picture in less than 10 minutes of going into studies as masters because you do find you have this enjoyment and this passion and this desire to create content. You're also a compelling guy to listen to. You're fun. You've got a very distinct accent, even amongst your peers. We'll get to this later. But I want to stick on the craft a little bit before we dive into some of the games, because when I do think about stage hosts, you're one of the guys that does come to mind as kind of like a grounding, an anchor in that role. Help explain to some of our other viewers kind of the responsibilities and how it differs for stage host to desk host to broadcaster or analyst, shoutcaster or analyst.
I think, I mean, all of them come with tremendous skill and high pressure in their own environments. I think the one thing that I always reflect on as a stage host is I always look at it as like tiny bursts of opportunity to make the show better and make sure the crowd has a good time and tie together storylines. But you only have these small windows that open and close in an instant. And I think I really enjoy that pressure because, you know, I've done a lot of desk hosting as well in esports, and I love it. I really do. But you can mess up when you're desk hosting if you want. You know, you can fumble your words here and there, and nobody's going to call you out on it because it's a conversational style. I know that casting, I mean, I've never casted on a high level. I remember once my former agent threw me into a Call of Duty casting opportunity, and I absolutely shit the bed. I never want to hear that back ever again. But you know, in the desk hosting and casting world, obviously crucial moments you have to get right. There's a similarity there, but there's a little bit more fluidity in the way that you can fumble and tumble a little bit. Whereas I really enjoy the pressure of having to deliver in that 1 minute window, that 30-second introduction, whatever it might be, the closing of the show, all that stuff. I think that's where there's a real differentiating factor when it comes to stage work in particular.
In terms of like how it differed from all of your broadcast experience, you have a radio show, you're giving awards, you're presenting them, you've worked on terrestrial television. How different were esports broadcasts, especially when you dove in at 2019, 2020, let's say maybe just before COVID?
Well, I think it was just it was going from being in a studio. I mean, on the radio, I had a co-presenter opposite me who I could bounce off, and literally a microphone in front of me. And when I'm talking into that microphone, I'm picturing, I guess, the demographic. I always used to try and a good friend of mine called James Brownlow, he was my manager at the time, who brought me into radio, and he gave me some really good advice of, you know, picture the person that you are trying to talk to. And I found the shift of talking from one person, whether that was the camera lens in terrestrial TV or the microphone in radio, it was like all of a sudden I'm talking to a big crowd of people, but at the same time, I'm still talking to that person in the camera lens who's watching wherever they are in the world. So I think it was a really, especially at first, I struggled to adapt from addressing the masses of like several hundred people to then all of a sudden, hey, you're going to love this as well. This is really important to you. I don't need you to make some noise. I just need you to sit there and enjoy it. Yeah. Whereas the crowd, let's get riled up and stuff. So it was like, I guess, flexing between the two was a bit different at first, but it took me some time to figure that one out.
It's really nice hearing a philosophical approach to your work, saying, looking through the lens, talking to the person on the other side. It's quite a rarity. There's a lot of our peers that are exceptionally talented, exceptionally good at what they do, but if you ask them to explain it, it can be challenging. It can be a little bit more of a thing. There's this like intuition, this natural credits, natural skill that's developed. Let's talk about the crowd work. Let's talk about arenas. Let's talk about stadiums. You've done it all. How did you approach developing that work? Because I can't imagine you had as many thousand fans for your food and drink shows in Hull.
No, absolutely not. A few less. I think it's funny because it was a bit of a journey, like I sort of alluded to a moment ago. It was like, it was finding my feet. And I think I came into it, like I said, originally, maybe a little bit too confident. I remember I got booked for my first Rainbow Six major, which was in Charlotte, North Carolina in 2022. And I want to give a shout out to the R6, some of the UK team, like Emmy, Desertu, Ace, Fresh. Some of these guys really went to bat for me and kept pushing my name because I did the 2019 gig, and they kept going to Ubisoft, try this guy. They gave me a shot, and it was fresh out of the pandemic, and I went in thinking this is going to be a breeze. It's a lot of American fans. They're going to be so happy to be back after what's been a rough couple of years, lockdown, and I'm going to have a meeting out of the palm of my hand. And I remember that I went out there and I was getting nothing. I was getting absolutely nothing. I was like, what is going on? And I went backstage, and I do what you should never do as a broadcaster. And I went on Twitch chat, and I'm reading through it, and everyone's going, who the F is this guy? We want the other guy back, blah, 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 blah. And there was one comment that really stood out to me, because I was wearing a black leather jacket for some reason, black jeans, and a pair of Jordans. And somebody said, who's this Walmart Eminem who's out there? So I went back out for the next segment, and I said, by the way, I never introduced myself. My name's Ian. Nice to meet you. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to be here. I want to give a specific shout out to the guy in chat who said that I looked like a Walmart Eminem. And the crowd laughed. And I think that in that moment, I sort of, made some sort of a self-deprecation bond with the crowd. And then it just got a lot better as the weekend unfolded.
But also you gave respect to the audience. You acknowledged the discomfort. I think it's a bit of an underrated thing. And like, I am very proud of the fact that when I've done stage work in League of Legends, I cheat. During the ad break, I go on the mic and I tell the audience what I'm going to do when the counter hits 0. And I'm like, please help me.
That's smart, by the way. That's good advice.
If you guys cheer for me when I ask this thing, like it looks amazing, it looks good. And like, what I'm actually doing is just making my work look good. But more importantly, you're bringing everybody in. And I love that you discussed like the challenges. What are some of the opposites now? Give me some examples of some of your earliest memories for like wins and things that you're incredibly proud of.
Yeah, I think I got really lucky when we did a major in Berlin, and it was my second Rainbow Six major. And at that point, I'd sort of built some form of a rapport with the crowd and the community, and I knew the respect levels I had to give it on a much greater level at this point. And we had like a run of an EU team that was just defying all the odds and flying through the tournament, made it all the way to the final. And as an EU guy myself, there was a lot of Brits in the crowd, lots of European fans there, and we were just blowing the roof off, and it was just phenomenal. And it was, I guess, I started, everybody, all stage hosts say, make some noise, or like, are you ready? Whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. But I started using make some noise as like I kind of yell it in a certain way, which sounds a bit, I don't know, maybe a little bit cringe. I'm not sure. But that became like something that I love to do. And I use it more sparingly now for the right moments. But at the time, I was just like, anytime I had the mic, I was like, make some noise. And because they were up for it, it was like, every time. And as you'll be aware from doing it yourself, Trev, whether that's, when you're desk hosting live at an event in an arena or stage hosting live at an event in an arena, when you get that response, it's not for you. And that's important to remember. Of course, yes. It's for the players, and it's for the community, and it's for the moment. But you get to be the conductor of that noise, and it just sends this feeling. Oh, I'm feeling it now. I'm feeling
what a beautiful description, because the example I gave before that was, hey, when I do this thing, but it's always going to be, I'm going to intro this player. I'm going to talk about this storyline. Like, I'm going to set up this hype piece of information. Please just make it big. Like, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it too.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about like how you handle the mishaps, because you could do all the prep in the world. You can have the audience eating out the palm of your hand, and then you go live and your microphone's not turned on. Yep. How do you personally respond to some of those technical challenges?
Luckily, I have been, during my years of local TV and low budget stuff, I think I had every challenge and every malfunction there is to have during that time. So I guess I'd like to, my good friend Jake, he describes me as, he thinks I perform best when the pressure's at its highest. And I think I tend to agree with him in like, I actually get a thrill when things go wrong. I like to be the resolution to the problem if possible. We've all had times where we've had to fill for what started as 5 minutes and it turned into 50. That's not as enjoyable, because when you're talking about the last time you mowed the lawn, you're struggling to maintain the audience. But I've had moments. You mentioned there about the mic going out. There was a show that I did where every time I went live, the mic was out. So what I had to keep doing, because obviously I've got talk back in my ear and I can hear my own voice. So I would say, welcome back. But every time I'd go, I just keep saying it until I heard myself in my ear because I knew I was live. So I just kept saying, welcome back to the, welcome back to the, welcome back. Welcome back to the, now it's all, and it's just like little things where you've got to, I guess you just got to pursue and stay with it. And ultimately, I always think that mistakes in broadcast, even if it's your own, or if it's a mistake in production, whatever, the next day it's yesterday's newspaper. Unless you've done something, truly, if you've disrespected a player or disrespected the audience, that's going to live with you. But, technical malfunctions or filling for time, I'd like to think that the audience can have somewhat of a degree of sympathy for those moments.
They do. And I also think you have to own it. That's the other side of it. When you're standing there, you're on camera, your mic's not on, but you lean into it. You're like, hey, I'm going to keep doing this thing. I'm going to make sure nobody misses this information. And I don't mind. Like, my job is to sometimes be cringe. My job is sometimes to do these things. So I get it. I have a lot of topics to cover, but I think we've done a really good introduction in terms of your studies, how gaming is along for the ride. And it's so apparent how much you enjoy live broadcast. There's an argument to be made. Gaming makes it better, but even without gaming is there. Let's talk about your gaming journey. So you get to do Rainbow Six and Counter-Strike in 2019. You become synonymous with Rainbow Six. I think it is fair to say you do add Valorant to your pool. EWC adds more. Let's talk about 2019 over the next few years. What games do you work on and what skills do you learn with the different games?
So I think it all depends on, I guess, the vibe of the show as well. And if the broadcast is an official circuit broadcast. Because I think I really learned a lot really early days where I did some Rocket League broadcasts. There was a tournament called The Grid, and it was RLCS official, but it was like I thought the concept was brilliant. This is right back when I first started. And every team had their own live broadcast team to commentate and cast their moments on the weekend that was at play. And I was working with Shogun, who is my favorite Rocket League caster and a wonderful, wonderful guy, because I was just coming in blind and I had no idea what I was doing. And we were just having so much fun. It was during lockdown. We were, in our bedrooms, just laughing with a really small but like tight knit community. So I really enjoyed that as an introduction. A little bit of Rocket League to start things off. But like you said, I've been lucky enough to be part of. I did a little bit of Valorant when it came to like the EU actual official league. But the more recent and larger events that I've done with them have been with Red Bull. So I do a lot of the Red Bull Homeground events, and I did the Red Bull Campus Clutch, which was a student tournament, which was a lot of fun as well. I'm lucky enough to do a lot of work with Red Bull, and they're one of my favorite clients because they really do push the boundaries, and I think they're a really important piece of the puzzle when it comes to the esports calendar year. I've got some really cool projects coming up that unfortunately I can't talk about yet. In some different games
come
as well.
on, give us the. Well, listen, we normally do the shout outs right at the end, which we will do as well. Just be aware that here at the Esports Awards, the platform will more than happily help promote any activities you're on. That's the sellout bit for them. But let's not skimp over Rainbow Six because I think it's fair to say that Rainbow Six is the game that's really elevated not only your name but your skill set and arguably put you in front of these other audiences, right? So what was your journey like in Rainbow Six? Because 2019 to 2022 is a long time, and the Six Invitational had already been running by the time you started, but it grew. What was that journey like for you?
I think Rainbow Six, and I'm actually annoyed with myself that I haven't said this yet, is the best thing that ever happened in my life and career, because they gave me an opportunity when nobody else was looking at it, and I was so grateful for it, because I'm sure you know this as well, Trevor. There's lots of talk when people talk about what are people like behind the scenes, what's the talent team like. I think that the Rainbow Six talent team behind the scenes and the production crew and everybody who puts it together, it's a really tight-knit family. And it's not just the events that I get to do that I'm so grateful for. I get to travel the world. I've taken my parents out to places that they never thought imaginable, and I get to host these incredible moments. And I'll tell you about Sao Paulo in Brazil, which was a career highlight that I don't think will ever get topped, and that was the Six Invitational 2024. But the best bit about Rainbow Six and why it's been such a great part of my life is that, yes, it's opened up the doors to world travel, which is, I always wanted to tie my career into travel when I was a kid. But I'm just as excited to see the team when I get there as I am for the broadcast to commence. You know, Ace of Pyrite, who's one of my favorite commentators in the industry, but also one of my favorite men. He's a bit older than me, which is nice. I'm normally the oldest guy in the green room, so I enjoy
preaching
that.
To the choir. Yeah, I know that feeling very well.
Yeah, but we go on these like long walks through the city wherever we are at the time, and just shoot the shit and talk about life and talk about life outside of gaming as well. But yeah, Rainbow Six, you know, from event to event, for me, it's just gotten better and better and better. And I will tell you, but I always tell everybody at Sao Paulo. So the Six Invitational 2024, Brazil, it was when I fell in love with Brazil and it became my number one country. Japan got edged down to second. And a big part of it was 10,000 fans in this arena, the Ginásio do Ibirapuera in Sao Paulo. And it was also the greatest grand final that I've ever experienced in any sport. It was Brazil versus Brazil. It was you had one twin on one team, another twin on the other team against each other. You had a 6-1 comeback on map 5 to clutch up the entire world championship. And luckily enough for me, and I always say this when people ask me what's my job like, what was that moment like? I always say the only opportunity you get to be in that position where you are center stage, surrounded by 10,000 cheering Brazilians. And I know, like I said before, I want to make clear they're not cheering for me, but you're either a rock star or like a global comedian or whatever that might be, or you're an esports stage host. Like, I can't think of many others where you get to have that level of, because you know, I'm feeling the ground rumbling beneath my feet. I can barely catch my breath, especially after the comeback that we all just witnessed. But yeah, the crazy thing is, I don't know how I ever topped that in my life, and I'm cool with that as well. I remember being on the flight.
I'll be honest, but you have to listen. You don't have to top it. You do not have to top it. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to tell you this, that I've got to spend a lot of time with Jess Goat, and she's one of my favorite people in the world, let alone one of my favorite broadcasters and one of my favorite.
I love Jess too.
Right. And she explicitly talks about that Sao Paulo event, that final as well. There's one thing I really want to hammer home that it's hard to translate to people who haven't been to an event. That energy, that volume is huge. The fact that you still remember the Portuguese name. For me, it was at Madrid, 2015, Palacio de Vista Alegre. That was my moment. So I have the same thing with Spanish fans, and you hear it cheering, and you're not the focus, but we're there holding the mic to elevate the things that we love. We love broadcast, and we love watching that. What are some of the challenges? No. What are some of the most amazing things that you've seen on a Rainbow Six broadcast, from studio to stadiums, that you are incredibly happy and proud of?
I'll tell you what, my girlfriend has got Alexa set to do a playlist at exactly this moment. So I need to turn Alexa off. Alexa, can you pause, please? Thank you. I think some of the greatest Siege moments for me, that was the question, right? Sorry, because Alexa just started talking to me.
Correct,
okay.
Yes.
So obviously it starts with Sao Paulo, but when I go back to the Berlin major that I mentioned earlier, the crowning moment for a team called Rogue and a player called Spoit, who, you know, in this moment of his life, he was crowned as the golden boy, and he was so young, and you know, I've got a lot of love for him, and he hasn't managed to reclaim that form yet. And I still think he's got it in him, because he went on to win this major title when, you know, he was so young. And I always think of what you just said there about, you know, you don't have to. And it's difficult when you're a competitor. I'm sure it's completely different, because, you know, you want to reclaim and you want to keep getting better. And it's a completely different kettle of fish to being a broadcaster, right? But I always think, how cool is it that even if that is the only big, crowning, amazing moment that you have in your career, and I hope that it's not, that you've got that forever. And that's the beauty of esports. And there's been countless moments where I've watched players fulfill their dreams, and I'll never do it. You know, I'll do my own version of it, but it's different when you are competing. You know, I used to play football. I used to play a bit of tennis. I was never good at it, but to imagine dedicating day after day after day, hour after hour to this thing that you love. And yeah, you win a lot of money, and yeah, you get the accolades and everything. But to be the best even if it's just for one weekend and then you're on to the next event, that's an achievement in itself. And I think my favorite thing about the moments that I've enjoyed in Rainbow Six is watching those crowning moments. I mean, the Boston Six Invitational in 2025, we all got suited and booted, tuxedoed, and in the MGM Music Hall in Boston, which was just magnificent. And watching FaZe Clan, who was the team who lost out at the death in Sao Paulo, who let that comeback happen and lost in front of their home crowd, who were able to regather and reset and go into the next Six Invitational and get the job done. I just think that's a beautiful story as well. So luckily for us in Siege, we do have some amazing storylines unfold year after year.
It's also amazing that the Six Invitational and the kind of the world champions, it's so competitive. It's one of the most exciting to watch. It's one of the most complex games to watch as well. I'm an FPS guy and I still struggle with a lot of the nuances of the game. But
me too.
Man, the SI is amazing. Now,
but how cool is the hammer, by the way? Sorry, Trevor. I know you like your trophies, right? But the hammer's cool. I do.
Listen, I will tell you this. I'm not with them anymore, so I'm going to just say this. For the longest time, the LEC trophy looked a little bit like an adult bedroom toy. I won't say more than that. If you just go Google LEC Trophy 2019, I guarantee you'll understand what I mean. I'm going to swiftly move us along though, because this is not what we should be talking about. Look, I can spend a lot of time sticking with Rainbow Six, but that's not really the intent of this podcast, because the other thing that I want to talk about is alongside your studies, your professional experience on television and radio, your now stage and stadium experience in esports across multiple titles, across multiple years, you're also the co-owner of a business. Do I call it a social media business? Do I call it incredibly intelligent? Braincup Media? Tell me about this and how it runs parallel with your broadcast work.
So I'm lucky that it runs parallel because my best friend is my business partner, and he is, for some reason, incredibly understanding that I have two lives. But we started this thing in the pandemic. I gave him his first job at a TV station way back when. He went on to work in the boxing world as a social media producer, and it started off. We both just was like, look, because I was never a streamer. So for me, it was like I would do these events, but I'd have this free time, and I'm not very good with free time, as my girlfriend will tell you. I'm always a bit of a busybody. So I found myself talking to him and was like, let's start something up. So we started this social media production company. Originally, that's what it was, and it's now become a live streaming events company. But that's mainly in sports world, the sporting world, and the entertainment world. But we have done lots of bits and pieces in esports, and we're looking to do more. And it sort of started off as a bit of a whim and a dream, and it started to then gain some momentum as we started to do more and more boxing events, especially with a promoter called Frank Warren. He's got Frank Warren's Queensbury Promotions. He's one of the most legendary Hall of Fame boxing promoters in the world. And we got to a point where he actually invested in our company. And he's his company is a minority owner in the company, and we do a lot of live streaming events for press conferences, weigh-ins, and boxing events in the UK and beyond. So it started off as something we didn't know where it would go, and we do social media as well. But I'm lucky that I've got a good partner in crime who's willing to accommodate me living my actual. I'm not saying that's not my dream, but you know what it's like.
I get what you mean. Yes, listen, you've got the ability to have multiple projects on the go at the same time. This industry is incredibly freelance. This industry is incredibly gig focused, gig to gig. You never know if your game's even going to have a competitive scene next year, let alone a tournament. So I understand it. The question I will ask, and I'm going to be quite blunt, is Jake the guy that actually runs the company and you're just a pretty face? Or let's do percentages here. How much do you actually work?
So he'll tell you that I'm just the pretty face. Okay. I call myself the creative mind. But yeah, I think in life you're either more creative focused and a big idea leaning, or you are business. And he's super business. I'm super creative. I think we both, at the moment, we're actually both putting a similar amount of time into the project. But yeah, it would be foolish of me to say that he is not the driving force, the engine behind it all. Because
I appreciate that. I wanted the honesty, and I was going to judge you harshly if you lied because he's not here. But let's shift gears just a tiny bit, because before I start looking to the future, as we very lightly skimmed everything else, Do you have other projects on the go? We know the broadcast work. We know, whatever endorsements. We know Braincup Media. Is there anything else that makes up Iain Chambers?
I think it's mainly, and I think I'm trying to do more of this specifically this year. Is I'm trying to commit more of a majority of my, I guess, my being to being there for my family, and therefore being more present for my partner. And my brother's just had a son, so I'm an uncle, and I'm trying to invest as much equity into, I guess, that part of my life. Making sure I'm there for my mum, making sure I'm there for my dad, and being a better friend, if I'm honest, because this game can suck you away from all of those things if you're not careful. And I'm really ambitious, but I want to make sure that I'm channeling that ambition into being present and being around. And it's tough because we travel a lot, and I wouldn't change that for the world. But when I am here, I still focus on the company outside of the presenting, and also like things like gym and running. I'm training for a marathon at the minute, but it's being there for the people that matter. I think it's really important, because sometimes you forget to do that.
Being present, and it's easy to be distracted with the glitz and the glamour. Incredible answer. And now that we are looking a little bit like, let's say, big picture, looking ahead, let's dive a bit deeper here. What is the prospects, the hope, the ambition for Braincup Media in 10 years, 20 years? Eesh. Where does it go?
See, I don't look that far ahead, but because that means I'll be 10 years older than I am now, and I don't like that thought. But yeah, I think for me, I just want to make sure that the dream is that we have a sustainable long-term business where we can give more people opportunities to earn a salary. I remember when, look, I'll be real with you, owning a business is tough. Sometimes you're the guy who gets to make the call, who says, you've got a job and you get to pay your mortgage with us. And then others, you've got to make difficult decisions because a client drops or whatever that might be. So I think my dream, if Braincup Media is still kicking and swinging in 10 years, is that we are giving people opportunity to grow with us, and to be a part of it, because that's ultimately, I just like to have a team. I like to have a team with us, because I think the journey is much better than the destination. I feel like such a cliche, but I think it really is.
You just told me bluntly as well. Like, I haven't thought about the destination. You're like, hey, let's just figure it out as we go. Build the airplane in flight. It's one of my favorite sayings.
I like that.
Let's stick with this as well, because I want to be looking further ahead. And this is the origin of your future story. What about Iain Chambers, the stage host, the broadcaster, the desk host? What does the future look like? And maybe let's be a bit more philosophical. What would you hope for in the next 5 or 10 years?
Do you know what? I like to be trusted with big opportunities. And I know that you know what it's like, Trev. I think that buzz of when that email comes through, or that you get on that call and you get that opportunity of something new. Don't get me wrong. I want Rainbow Six to be a big part of my life for as long as it can be, as long as it'll allow me to be a part of it. But outside of that, I want to make sure that I am challenging myself with new opportunities, new fan bases, new mediums, new genres, whatever that might be. Just because I like to feel like I'm constantly growing, because you get to a point where you know what you're good at, right? And sometimes I think it's human. We all sometimes rest on our laurels a little bit. But I like to feel like that heat on the back of my neck where I'm like, oh, have I got this? I don't know if I've actually got this. I want to keep feeling that pressure and challenge of new things and new opportunities as the years go by. And, I don't necessarily have like a vision of that thing, what it looks like, but I've got belief that it'll come. Whatever that next big thing is that keeps me on my toes. And we call it squeaky bum time here in the UK. It means you're really nervous. It's a weird saying. It's a really weird saying.
I will say this, by the way, the swear words of the language you've had in this one, they're so British. It's so good. I'm loving it. I apologize. I interrupted. So squeaky bum time. Please do continue.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. Squeaky bum time. For me, it's just like that feeling. Do you know where you are on, you're on tenterhooks. You're just like, oh. And I want to feel like, can I do it? Have I got it? Am I going to fumble this? You know how to say another weird thing?
I do. No, I could. It's just if you watch back this last minute and you're like, hey, listen, we're going to be clinching, right? This is a tense moment. You're going to be very tense. I want to just make one comment on this. Right at the beginning of the interview, you talked about how it was luck. And I've used this sentence a couple times, but luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity. And I think you do have to look back and go, look at the studies you've done, look at the work you did, so that when luck presented the opportunity of Rainbow Six and Counter-Strike in Manchester, you grab it, right? Now you're an experienced guy. I think it's fair to say, as being one of the older people in broadcast, you also have the soul of a slightly older gentleman. You know, old man yells at clouds. I see it myself. What does the future hold for broadcast? It's a young man's game. Six Invitational has grown exponentially since 2019. What does the future of SI and Rainbow Six Esports look like?
Well, I was lucky enough to be part of the announcement video for the next few locations for Rainbow Six Siege, and they're all super exciting. We're going to Salt Lake City in May, and then we are moving on to Japan, which is, like I said, my number 2 country, really close. I actually don't know which city it is in Japan yet. There's rumblings, but I can't confirm that. But I'm really excited to go back to Japan in November, which will be I did a Valorant event in Japan, but I've never done a Siege event in Japan, and I cannot wait to see the difference in, I guess, the crowd energy in comparison to some of the other markets that we've been to. And then in February next year, the Six Invitational returns to Brazil, and I'm so excited for that. So I think onwards and upwards for Siege. I'd like to think we've just celebrated the 10-year anniversary of Six Invitationals, and let's hope for another 10 minimum, because the game is so far beyond just the gameplay. The community is unreal. The people that I see at every event, no matter if it's on this side of the world or that side, that's those same faces make the journey. They spend their hard-earned cash. They come out and they support their favorite teams and players. And that is the thing that I hope long continues. And these players, I need to see Shaiko. Shaiko's arguably the greatest, one of the greatest Rainbow Six Siege players of all time, and he hasn't won a hammer yet. So I need to see that happen before he retires, that's for sure.
And one of the things that's incredible as well, I'm somebody that watches a lot of esports and has seen it. I watch many titles. It's a problem for my wife. I get yelled at a lot. But Rainbow Six and now Rainbow Six Siege X is one of the very few games that got better. Upon release, it did not look good. This was a title that there was not a lot of hope and excitement, and it has just gone from strength to strength to strength. It's incredible to see. It's great to see your career going alongside it. I do have to start wrapping us up as we are nearing the end of our conversation, as we do lightly touch on so many topics. The very last thing that I do is quick fire questions with quick shot, meaning I'm going to hit you some rapidly increasing intensity. If you choose one word, one sentence, or one paragraph, I adapt to you. I know the answer to the first one, but let's start. What is your favorite Six Invitational moment?
Sao Paulo, Brazil, 2024.
What is your favorite social media account to follow?
Big John, the guy in the UK who says, bash. If you don't know who he is, check him out.
One game that you cannot wait to work on.
One game that I cannot wait to work on. I'm going to say. So is this? Let me clarify. Is this one that I would love to work on, or I'm excited to work on?
How about you tell me, boss?
Just give me a Mario Kart Invitational, somebody, please, and I will host it.
One game that you wish you could have worked on.
Gears of War.
What is the hardest desk or stage you've ever hosted?
That's tough. The hardest desk or stage I've ever hosted. I'm going to say... all right. I'm going to say a charity Valorant event, only because it was challenging, because at one point I was doing press-ups with Dan Gaskin on my back, live on air.
That's ridiculous, but he's a very small man, so I think you're fine. Who is your favorite Rainbow Six team or player to watch?
Favorite team is Furia, and my favorite player is Shaiko.
And who is your favorite Rainbow Six broadcaster?
Oh, that's tough. That's a really that is so tough. There's so many good ones. There's so many good ones. I'm going to stick with my guy, Ace of Pyrite, who I mentioned earlier.
I like that.
Just because he's older than me.
I would have gone Derry or Jess personally, but that's one thing. Okay, one last question. If you could nominate anybody to be the next guest to be featured on Origins, who would you nominate and why?
I got two answers for this. My first is Van Silly. If he's not been on before, he is an absolute legend in esports. He's one of my favorite people in the entire scene. He's done and been around so many different eras and crucial moments in esports, and I think he's a wonderful man to have on this show. I would recommend Van Silly. And on the other side, I don't know if you've done it before, Quickshot, but I think maybe we should flip sides here because I feel so guilty. Just because you're asking me questions, and I'm like, because little tidbit here for you here, Quickshot. When I first found out about esports, and you know, as you're aware, my name's Iain Chambers. That's my name. I remember there was two names that really stood out to me. I was like, those are cool names because these guys all have like cool, I guess, like gamer tag names. It was Quickshot and Machine. I was like,
yeah.
I was like, is there anything I can have like that? But yeah, I would love if you ever wanted to flip the roles and do a role reversal here, I'd be more than up for it.
I will say thank you for the kind words. I actually have been very fortunate. I have appeared on an episode a little while ago, talked about my origins. And I'll tell you this, I actually wish that I could swap with you. Now that my world has expanded beyond just one video game, and I'm now moving into the space that you are with like business ownership, I kind of wish my nickname wasn't Quickshot. I wish it was just Trevor Henry. Like, do you know what I mean? You can imagine how there are complications explaining that.
Are you telling me that I can be Quickshot? Are you giving me the name?
I would trade. Well, maybe not. I got a lot, but you know the point of doing it. Listen, Iain, it's a pleasure. I opened obviously with a bit of a personal joke between the two of us. It's been really great to get to know you at the Esports World Cup, and I've watched your work for years. Now, I'd love for you to tell our viewers where they can find you, what channels. If you do have any projects coming up soon that you're allowed to talk about, otherwise, let's tease when they can expect something.
All right. So I will say you can find me at Iain Chambers on pretty much everything. Iain with an extra I because my mum's weird. That's IAIN Chambers. You catch me on Instagram or on X. I don't really use TikTok. I try not to. And I've got some cool events coming up in April, May time. I can't say what they are, but if you follow me, you'll see where I'm going. I'm going to some cool places, some new opportunities, and some familiar ones too. So yeah, that's where I'm going to be.
Best of luck. And as always, announcements of announcements. They're the very exciting ones. Mr. Chambers, thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a lovely day and best of luck on all your upcoming travels. Thank you, Trevor. It's been a pleasure. You're a legend. I appreciate you. It really was amazing. There is another episode of the Esports Awards Origins podcast wrapped up. I've been your host, Quickshot. And as always, we have a whole plethora of other hosts, talent, guests. You know what it. Just click the playlist, find somebody else to watch, and we'll see you on the next one.